In this video, I'll teach you the procedure to perform dimensions in AutoCAD. Without dimensions, a drawing will appear to be made up of a number of lines, circles and arcs. Without incorporating measurements, a drawing will not be complete. You can try out the concept of dimensions in this figure and it is provided along with the video. And here I have used two layers. I have a geometry layer in which I have kept the geometry, and I have a dimensions layer in which I'm going to keep the dimensions. I'll make that as a current layer. Now, if you want to perform dimensions in AutoCAD 2016, you need to make use of only a single command. For that, just click on the Annotate tab and you just click on the Dimension command. Here, you will get a number of options like Angular, Baseline, Continue, Ordinate, Align, Distribute, Layer, etc. But I'm not going to make use of any of this option. Instead, I'll just turn off the OSnap and I'll take the cursor onto the object which is to be dimension. When you take it here and when I zoom out, it will show you the actual dimension. And when I make a pick, it will ask you to specify the dimension line location. I'll just click a point to specify the dimension line. Here I have performed a dimension. Now I'm still in the dimension command. Now if you want, you can perform rest of the dimensions. But here the dimension appear to be too large, so you have to correct the size. So I'll just give an enter to exit this command. In fact, in AutoCAD, each and every parameters related with dimensions can be controlled with the help of a dialog box. And this is called a Dimension Style Manager dialog box. You get that by clicking on this particular arrow over here in the Dimensions panel, or else you can simply type the command D at the command prompt. Now you have this Dimension Style Manager. Over here, the current dimension style is displayed, which is ISO 25. Now I'm going to modify the existing style. So just click on the modify button. Here you will get modify dimension style manager interface, in which you can change each and every parameters related with dimensions. Here I'm going to change the scale, which is obtained in the fit tab. So just click on the fit tab and over here we have use overall scale off. I'm going to change this value from 1 to 0.05. Now I'll just give OK and close. Now you can see that the dimension got automatically changed. Now let's just observe this dimension. See, in AutoCAD, a dimension will remain as a single object because by default a dimension is associative in nature. That means the various subobjects related with a dimension, such as the first extension line, second extension line, first arrowhead, second arrowhead, the first dimension line, second dimension line, and the dimension text will remain as a single unit. That is because this dimension which you have performed is fully associative in nature. In AutoCAD, there is a variable called dim_assoc. I'll type the name of the variable. It is presently set at 2. That is why this dimension is fully associative. In 99% cases, the dim_assoc variable should be set at 2. What advantage do you get when the dimension is associative? When you click on the dimension, you can see two definition points on the dimensions. These definition points are linked or coupled to the anchor points on the object. These grips are nothing but definition points on the dimension. When I click on these grips and when I drag, you can see that the dimensions will get dynamically changed. I'll just undo this operation. And when you just click on the geometry, you get grips. I'll just activate the ortho mode. And when you make changes on the geometry, even that change will get reflected on the dimension. So this is the main feature of an associative dimension. I'll again go to dim_assoc variable and I give the value 1. Now I'll perform another dimension. I'll click on dim and I'll select this object. Now you can see that the dimensioning is automatically done. The measurement is written. Now I'll just give enter to exit the dimension command and I'll activate this dimension. Now you have got the grips. Now when you just activate the grip and move rightward, you can see that the dimension is getting updated. Now I'll undo this change. Now I'll just click on the geometry. Now when I edit the geometry, you can see that the dimension is no longer getting changed. That is because when the dim_assoc variable is 1, the definition points on the dimension will not get linked with the anchor points or association points on the object. The editing of dimensions based on the grip is possible. The value of the dimension will not get changed along with the change in the geometry. Now I'll undo this change as well. Next, I'll go to dim_assoc variable once again. Now this time I'll give the value 0. Now I'll go to dimension command. I'll just click on this geometry and I'll drag to place the dimension line here. I'll just give enter to exit this command. Now when you look at the dimension, you can see that the dimension line, the arrowheads, the text, the extension line, all the elements in the dimension will appear in the exploded state. That means this dimension is fully non-associative, and this is not at all recommended. So that is the influence of dim assoc variable on a dimension. Now I'll erase these two dimensions. So I'll go to Home tab and take erase. Okay, so the dimension is gone. Next I'll go to dim assoc and I'll set it back to 2. First I'll dimension this figure by using the methods which are generally adopted in AutoCAD 2015 and prior versions. But in AutoCAD 2016, you have only a single dimension command in which all the subcommands of dimension is grouped. If you want to measure a linear distance, you can just click on linear and you can pick the first extension line origin, second extension line origin and the dimension line location. The linear option can be used to measure the horizontal distance or vertical distance. I'll again click on linear and I'll pick 2 extension line origin points and I'll choose the dimension line location to create a vertical dimension. If you want to measure the inclined distance, you can go to align dimension and you can just click on the first extension line origin, second extension line origin and the dimension line location. Next we will see the angular dimension. If you want to measure an angle, just click on angular and select a line, circle or an arc. Now I want to mark the angle between this line as well as this line. Then you can just keep the cursor in the desired location. If I keep it here, it will write the subtended angle. If I keep it over here, it will write a corresponding angle. So I'll keep it here and I'll write the angle there. Then you can go to arc length to measure the length of a given arc. So it will be written like this. Then you can go to radius option to mark the radius of a circle or an arc. The dimension starts with the letter R to indicate that it's radius. You can also use the diameter option to mark the diameter of a circle or an arc or an ellipse. So I'll keep it like this. The jogged option can be used to create a jogged dimension for a circle or an arc. Sometimes there can be situations in which the actual center of a circle or an arc cannot be displayed on the layout because it may lay outside the layout. In such a case, you can perform a radius dimension based on a user-defined center, and this center point is called center location override. So I'll click on jogged. Now the software will ask you to select the arc or a circle. I'll click this arc. Now it will ask you for a center location override, which is the new center I was talking about. I'll just click on this particular center. Now it will ask you to specify the dimension line location. I'll keep my dimension line location here. Now it will ask you to select the position of the jog. The jog is nothing but that zigzag line which you see here, and jog can be placed conveniently anywhere you want. I'll keep it right here. So this is called a jogged dimension. Next we will see the ordinate dimension. In ordinate dimension, we have to specify a datum point and a feature location. So before you dimension, the datum point should be located. The origin is used as the datum point. Then the horizontal and vertical distances of a feature location is measured from the datum point, and these values are written as dimensions. So before I dimension, I should relocate the origin to the datum point. In AutoCAD, you can relocate the World Coordinate Setup or WCS icon by clicking on the icon. Then you will get 3 grips, out of which you will have a grip at the origin point. Just click on this grip, and I would like to keep right at the center of this arc. So you can choose center, and I'll pick this arc. Now the origin is located, and this is the datum point. Next I'll go for the ordinate dimension. So click on ordinate. So it will ask you to specify the feature location. Feature location is nothing but the center of this hole. You can just click on that. Now if you move the cursor vertically down, the horizontal distance of the feature location is written as a dimension. So this 1.88 is nothing but this particular distance. Similarly, you just click on ordinate once more and select the center as the feature location. When you move the mouse leftward in a horizontal direction, the vertical distance of the feature location from the datum point is written as the dimension. So this particular height is 1.25 and this is 1.88. Now I'll go to ordinate dimension once more and I'll choose this time this point as a feature location. You can alternatively use X datum to write the X coordinate like this. And this is nothing but the horizontal distance. Again ordinate, choose the same feature location, and I'll choose Y datum to write the vertical distance which is the y coordinate of that point with respect to the datum point. So it is generally used in mechanical drawings to prevent escalating errors. Next, I'll dimension the same figure using the method in AutoCAD 2016. That is by using a single dimension command. I'll erase all the existing dimensions except this particular dimension. Now I'll perform rest of the dimensions. So I'll go to Annotate tab and I'll go to Dimension. I'll click on this object and I'll drag to place the dimension line here. This object I'll dimension, and even this arc I would like to dimension. So when you take the cursor onto this arc, the dimension automatically starts with the letter R to indicate the radius of the arc, and the center tick mark is indicated as a dot. When you take the cursor onto this object, it will show the actual dimension. Now when you take the cursor rightward like this, it will show the vertical dimension. When you keep the cursor downward, it will write the horizontal dimension. So depending upon the type of dimension required, you can keep the cursor in the right location. So I would like to write this particular dimension. So instead, I would like to write the angle. I'll just go to Dimension, and you can click on Angular if you want to write the angular dimension. I'll pick this one as well as this object. Depending upon the position of the cursor, it will show you the corresponding angle. If I keep the cursor here, it will write 150. But I would like to show this angle here, so just click on that. Now I want to show this particular distance, so I'll go to Dimension again. Instead of picking the object, you can also pick two extension line positions, because that is a default. It will ask you to select the first extension line origin. You can just pick on this particular endpoint. So you just activate the OSNAP and click on this endpoint as well as this endpoint. You will get the same result. I'll also dimension the circle. So I'll keep the cursor over here and you can just make a pick. You can write the diameter inside or outside. I'll write it outside. I'll make a click here. Later on we will correct the position. Now I would like to show this vertical dimension. So I'll pick the first extension line origin here and the next one here. We can keep the dimension line location here. So it will write the vertical dimension. Even this vertical dimension can be indicated. So I'll keep this as a first extension line origin and second extension line origin, and you can pick the dimension line location here. So likewise, you can either directly go and pick the object, or else you can pick the extension lines and write the dimension. Now I'll just give enter to exit this command. Next we will see the baseline and continue option in the dimension command. When you click on the dimension command, you will see the baseline and continue options. You will get the same options in the dimensions panel. But before you perform a baseline or continue dimensioning, you should have performed a normal dimension. Before I do that, I'll erase these dimensions. Next, I'll come to Annotate tab and I'll come to Dimension command and I'll perform a dimension of this particular edge. Next, I'll come to Continue method, and when you go to Continue, it will ask you only for the second extension line origin. The first extension line of the current dimension will be taken as the second extension line of the most recent dimension. So you can pick the second extension line origin over here. You are again prompted for the second extension line. Likewise, you can go on picking any number of second extension lines, and this is how the continue dimension will appear. Now let's try the baseline. I'll undo this. Next, I'll go for a normal dimension. I'll pick these two endpoints and dimension this object. I'll go to baseline method. Here you are asked only for the second extension line, but in this case, the first extension line of the current dimension will be taken as the first extension line of the first dimension, and this particular line will act as a baseline or reference line for rest of the dimensions. Likewise, you can go on dimensioning any number of times. Now I'll erase these dimension lines and we will see the procedure to edit a dimension. We'll start with basic editing. When you click on a dimension, based on these grip points, you can perform some editing operations. When you click on this particular grip on the text, you will be able to change the position of the dimension line as well as the dimension text. If I want, I can keep the dimension text here. Now I'll just undo this. When I click on this dimension, when I take a cursor on this grip, you will see a menu popping up. In this menu, you will see options like stretch, move with dimensional line, that's what you have seen now. Then move text only option will let you move only the text without moving the dimension line. If you click on move with leader option, you can just move the text and you will see a leader line coming from the dimension line. I'll undo these changes. I'll again click on the dimension line, and when I take the cursor over here, you will get a pop-up menu, and here you will get certain options like baseline dimension. You can make it a continued dimension, you can stretch the dimension group, or you can flip the arrow and things like that. Now I'll flip it back to the previous position. When you double click on the dimension text, you will get a full-fledged text editor ribbon, and herein you can see all the options which we have discussed in the case of multi-line text to edit a text. I'll change the value, or I can even replace the text with a different text. Suppose if I want to write the word length, I can write that, and you can just close the text editor. Okay, now whenever you want to get the previous text back, you can just double click on the existing text. You can replace the existing text with a less than greater than sign. So you will get the previous text back. And you can make use of all these options here to change the color. You can make it bold. For that you have to first select the text. You can make it bold. You can make it italics. You can underline it. And you can perform all sort of editing operations. So this is how you perform the basic editing in a dimension. But using the Dimension Style Manager dialog box, you can edit the various parameters related with the elements in a dimension. So in the next video, I'll talk about Dimension Style Manager dialog box.